you cockerels serve the same purpose, but they grow at a slower pace than broilers. And then there's another breed called Noila, which is
Maja is also there. A lot of breeds are quite directly coming up now in terms of poultry farming. However, we might not be going deep down on the species or the breed that we have for purpose of time.
Yeah.
Just like we said yesterday. But you forgot to tell them that you are also a huge fan of meat. You only mentioned that broiler, this and that. But
Oh
you tell them.
yes, I am a very huge fan. In fact, yesterday, very funny story. Yesterday, I got home. I've been having, of course, I took a sick leave, so a lot of people know that I'm still recouping. And yesterday, I've been having issues with my appetite, and I just got into the kitchen. I opened the fridge. I kept looking and looking and looking, and there was food there. And I just grabbed some chicken. I dropped it in the pot, and I started making peppered meat. And the person I'm with is like, "You are meat." I'm like, "Just leave me. I want to eat something peppery." And the person said, "You can't make anything else that is peppery. Can't you make beans and add pepper? Why are you just eating meat?" I'm like, "It's meat." So yes, I'm a big fan of meat. I love to eat meat.
And that is telling that tells you that there is huge market for it. Yesterday we told you that 30% is what has been able to cover in terms of our local production.
Absolutely.
That is the only thing.
Just 30%.
30%. So 70% has to be from outside the shores of Nigeria. So if you decide to venture into this, you definitely
There
have
is a
huge
willing
market.
market. There's a market just waiting for you to tap into it. Now let's get into today's episode, selecting a suitable farm location for your poultry farming in Nigeria. So to start a poultry farm, you need a suitable farm site. Ideally, poultry farms should be situated far from your residential buildings due to the offensive odor that typically emanates from them. However, if you cannot afford to acquire a new site, you can start with any available space in your place of residence. But as your poultry farm expands, demands get higher, you will need to move your farm to a new site. We kind of mentioned a little bit about this yesterday, and we said because of the smell, because of the odor that emanates from poultries, if you are going to be starting within your residence, you have to work on it.
Yeah, you have to dedicate a lot of time and energy into it because although now there are also some things that you do to take care of the pollution aspect, the smell aspect of your poultry, because technology have come and we've learned there is development in that part. You've learned a lot that there are some things that you apply, or there are cages that you use that you tend to have a level of control over the feces that comes from the beds. So probably daily cleaning will help, and you tend to have, and sometimes the feed that that you give the beds also matters. It gives it takes care of all the wet wet feces they pass through. Wet stool is gonna be a bit dry, and you might not be having a dirty or stinky poultry. Also, your watering system, with the kind of feeder you use for the feed, and also the watering can, whatever you use there, it depends on what you do. There's a level at which you can control the odor that comes. However, based on environmental laws, you might not be allowed to have poultry in your residential area, especially when it pollutes the environment. Your neighbors might find it not funny, especially to your immediate family. It also poses a health hazard to you, let alone your neighbors. So there are a lot of ways you do, and when you stay with us, you will get to understand more on what we are doing on this program.
Absolutely.
And don't forget that we're just giving you the tips.
You have to, if you're really interested in getting involved in this, you would have to go in, you have to dig deeper.
Your time on it.
Yes, you have to get more knowledge about it so that you're not going in blind. Now, if you can afford a new site away from your place of residence, select a location that is calm and free of pollution, predators, and other threats. Also ensure that the location is close to a good water source. If you can afford to install a borehole on your farm to ensure an adequate supply of clean water to the farm, a good poultry farm should be easily accessible. It should be situated in a location with good roads to ensure easy transportation of farm products when they are ready for sale, especially eggs. You don't want a place that the road is very bad. By the time you move your eggs, you have too many cracks. Cracks don't sell for the same price as eggs that are not cracked. Okay? And you want to make as much profit as you can off of your farm produce.
When you talk about crack, I just remember back in the days when we were having poultry beds at home, that is in Jos. 100 naira was what we buy a crate of crack for. We sell 100 naira. That's how much it costs. But now I don't know how much it costs.
I don't know how much eggs are. Don't ask me. I think a crate is 2.3 or 2.2 in the market.
Yeah, that's the range.
That should be the range now. And it's I remember when egg was 700 and people were like, it's 700 naira. Why? And now it's 2,300 or 2,200. That's the range.
And also the part of this predator is something that you have to also take into account, because you can't afford to set up your farm or your poultry beds where there are predators, because you're gonna incur a lot of losses in terms of mortality. Because for instance, now if you have a laying beds, they are already laying and they get to see a predator. Let me just use a snake for instance. It scares them, and it affects and rats as well, and it affects them that to the extent that it affects their production.
Absolutely.
If they become scared, the noise they will make is quite different.
Very different.
Thereafter, it will affect their production. You see, the egg you're getting will start going down. So you can't afford to jeopardize that side of it. You don't need anything predator in near your farm.
From experience, when my mom started out poultry farming, we were a lot younger. There was a time that there was an alligator. We stayed in a very waterlogged environment, and just before development came and there were many houses and all of that, there was a stream not very far from the house, and there was this very small alligator that would always creeping, and you wake up in the morning and you see the birds, some have been eaten, and it was a lot of loss. They had to find a way to get it out of there. So these are some of the things you need to look out for. Big rats can eat your eggs. They would literally be enjoying your money
and another
and getting bigger.
Another thing they can also do is they will eat the feed.
Yes.
And they become bigger once they are feeding on that bird's feed, and also they contaminate the feed. Before you know, diseases will strike your poultry beds, which is something that it's gonna really affect you negatively. And another key thing is that providing good housing or shelter for poultry farming in Nigeria is also very key. If you want to start, just like we always reiterate for a fact, that you have to get the necessary knowledge to keep your birds secure and safe. You must create a good shelter for them on the farm site. There are 4 major housing systems in poultry farming: the free range or extensive system, the semi-intensive system, folding unit system, and the intensive system. And we're going to take one after the other to explain.
Okay, so the free range poultry housing system is the oldest system of housing birds in poultry farming. In this system, the birds are allowed to roam freely around the farm during the day and are kept in a shelter at night. The shelter is usually provided by temporary roofing supported by ordinary poles. The free range system is perfect for new poultry farmers because it requires less capital investment than other housing systems. It minimizes not just the cost of housing construction, but also the cost of feeding the birds, as this system allows them to get most of their food by searching around the farm. The major disadvantage of this system is it may lead to loss of many birds due to exposure to predators, contaminated food, and other dangers they may encounter while roaming around the farm. So while this one is very budget friendly, it has a lot of risks, because the birds are just roaming freely during the day. Then at night you would find a way to push them into their abode. In the morning you open the doors for them to roam around.
That one is more suitable with the local birds, local fowls, and also to an extent cockerels and noila. Also I think they enjoy this kind of or they are friendly to this kind of pattern, so to say. But for broilers, if you do that, you're gonna incur a lot of losses. So broilers prefer a quite different approach, and we will certainly look at that.
I refer to broilers as like the ajebota of chicken.
Yes, that is their name.
They don't want stress.
That is their name.
They barely move. If you grow your broilers well, they grow to a point where they can barely move from point A to point B. They will just move enough to eat and move enough to get water to drink. And it's broilers are the ajebos. There's nothing we can do about it. So no, they don't want to be moving around. But you see, like local birds, cockerels, those ones are the ones that when you're eating their meat, it's a little bit strong. You get it? Me, I'll know by the taste of the meat. If you give me chicken,
But funny enough, people,
I put it in my mouth,
some
I can tell.
they prefer the local chicken.
I do,
than the-
especially if I'm one of the people that believe that chicken has no business in soup. Like if you're making soup, use goat meat or beef or anything else. But you see local chicken in egusi, oh my god, top notch. You can use it.
Don't make me to start salivating, please.
No, I will, so that you can
We're
go
out
and buy more meat, and people will now they'll make more sale.
there. All right, semi-intensive housing system. This type of housing system is partly free and partly intensive. So it's a combination of two. In this system, a small land surrounded by a wire mesh is attached to a poultry house. The small land area is called a run. Yes, as in run, literally run, R-U-N. The birds spend the daytime in the run and take shelter in the poultry house at night. Then
That's
you have
basically what it
folding
is.
unit system.
Yep.
This system also comprises a poultry house attached to a run, but the space requirement is less and the total poultry unit can be shifted from one place to another.
Now, the intensive system is a system that is most suitable and efficient as a housing system for large-scale poultry farming. Commercial poultry farming is done only with this system. There are different types of intensive poultry housing systems. So there's a deep litter system, the slated or wired floor system, combination of the slated floor and deep litter system, the aviaries, cage system, or battery system. The intensive poultry housing system enhances productivity in many ways. It makes day-to-day management easy, and the birds tend to save more energy because of the restriction of their movement. With this system, you can easily and accurately apply scientific management practices like breeding, feeding, medication, and culling. This system also makes it easy to identify, isolate, and treat sick birds, therefore preventing disease outbreaks in the farm. The major disadvantage of this system is the high cost of construction and day-to-day management that is involved.
Yeah, especially the part of construction. That is the biggest part of it, because for you to buy some of those cage is not really easy. It's very capital intensive if you want to do. So most times people who are starting off, they prefer to go with deep litter system. That is for you to just have an area where, let's say a room or a cage, you just apply sawdust or chaff from rice or anything meal from the factory. You just pour it on the ground and you set your bed inside. They feed from there. That is literally what you do with deep litter. Yeah, that one, the only thing you incur expenses on is going to be on the provision of the shelter for the birds. But the other one, talking about cage system, you just have to, after making sure that you have enough shelter, you also spend a large chunk of money in terms of buying the cage, and it is very expensive.
Absolutely.
But it also has its own benefit.
Yes, and I personally prefer the battery system. That's the cage system, because it's easy it's easier to manage. So it's when you're constructing that you go through that's the most difficult stage. When you eventually have your birds, it's like a system that runs itself. There's where the eggs go, there's where you put the feed, there's where you put the water, there's where the litter goes. It's easier to clean, it's easier to manage, and it's not something, this is some kind of, it's a long-term investment, because after you're done with this set of birds, you can put another set in there.
Same cage, you just
Same
do
cage.
maintenance.
Absolutely.
Especially when we talk about the nipples, in terms of where the water comes through, in terms of their drinking, and maybe the feeder. You do some minor maintenance
here
like
and there.
that.
So if you're thinking of getting into the poultry farming on a large scale, so medium to large scale, so to speak, and you do have the capital, I would advise, this is just personal preference though, I'd advise you use the cage system or the battery system, because it's easier to maintain and it's easier to run. It reduces the work that you would have to do in the poultry. Now, feeding and caring for the birds. In order to attain maximum productivity, you must ensure that the birds in your farm receive adequate nutrition, care, and medication when necessary. First off, before I go on, just know that as you are starting a poultry, have a veterinary doctor. That's your personal veterinary doctor. The same way that when you give birth, you have a pediatrician. That is your baby's doctor on standby. You have a veterinarian, because birds can just wake up with, there's this thing that is very common with them, coccidiosis.
Yeah.
They just wake up and they want to stress you. They will just be coughing.
But at times, sometimes people don't even understand there are different symptoms to different ailments for birds. People just conclude once they see this bird is kind of busy, they say it's coccidiosis, or some will tell you it's Newcastle. But there are other diseases that affect birds. So
Absolutely.
you might want to consult.
Plus, they have vaccines that they take on a
and one thing is that I don't want to make I'm not here for promote for any company. I'm not going to mention any company. If you want to place advert, you come, or we do business with you. We
will now tell people you are the one that's doing it better.
That is how it is, and we'll tell people about your beds. If you have the best bed in terms of mortality, in terms of growth, and also whatever we will certainly do that on Voice of the People 96.1. So what I was trying to say is that back then there was this farm I managed, and we were using a particular brand of feed. So someone now came and introduced another brand to us that, no, these people, their price is high, and it's not as if what you're getting in terms of output, that's for the egg laying beds, is that fantastic. There's a new company that is on board now. If you buy this feed, part of the benefit you get from them is that they have veterinary doctors who will come and be checking your beds, and if you have anything, you call them free of charge. They render services to you free of charge because you are patronizing their own company feeds. So that's also another way of getting some of those things done. I don't know if they really are doing that up till now, but it's also an avenue. So if at all you are buying from a particular company, they will be able, there's some sort of benefit that you derive from patronizing them.
Now, don't forget, that is also an aspect of poultry farming you can get involved in. Production of feed. It's something you can also get involved in, get the necessary training, learn how these things are done. We used to have a neighbor that had a bigger poultry than ours. Theirs was huge. I think they had over 10,000 birds, and they used to produce their own feed. They had like a meal in the poultry. They had like a block of poultry farms, right? They had a whole building for it, a whole compound. There was a pen, right? That's what they call it. They had a pen, and there was a flat that was the meal. We used to go there and we'd be mind blown. Well, they moved. They left the country.
And the thing is that 70 to 80% of your costs goes to production, because feeding, that is where your money goes from. That is where the investment goes to. Absolutely. Once your bird are laying or whatever it is, even if it is broiler that you decide to put in, you discover that you have to make budget before you start. And talking about cost, we talk about knowing some of those things concerning cost. I want to also give you this as a tip. Before you put, let's assume you want to start with broiler, 10 broilers just on a norm, you have to make inquiry to know, because there is a certain kilogram of feed that a particular bird will eat from day 1 up till week 7, week 6 and 7 table size, because that's it for broiler. Week 6, 7 most times. Some don't even allow you to get to week 7. 6 weeks, people they will just dispose it.
We do 12
for personal consumption or for sale.
For sale. So they are huge. They are huge. Like one bird will fill a small bucket.
But
I'm not kidding.
Do you know that if you look at the if you do the calculation properly, you discover that if you sell off at week 6, you make more profit than if you allow it to get to week 12. That is it.
Well, yes, but we sell in cages.
Okay.
Yeah, we sell in cages. So we don't sell them. We sell in cages. Right, so we wait.
I understand that. So
that was the way to. That was the way around it. We still make profit, because my mom was very about. She doesn't want to sell something she wouldn't eat. My mom is very personal about her business, so she's like, if I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to sell it. So she waits till it's 12 weeks. So people that buy, and the thing about the poultry business is, you would already have your market down.
Yes.
You barely have to advertise. So people that buy already know. if I want huge chickens that are huge. Yeah.
So as I was saying
Absolutely.
earlier, you should know that if you started with 10 birds, you already know this is the kg of feed that this bird is going to consume from day one. That is, if you're buying the old chicks, from day one to the last day you want to sell, depends on how long you want to keep the birds. You already know. So you make calculation, you buy the feed and keep it on ground. You already have feed.
That's wisdom.
From day one till when you sell them, because you can't afford to bank on an income that you don't already have, because a lot of people have lost a lot of investment by starting, okay, let me start with this number of birds and I am able to have so number of feed, but it's going to take them for 2-3 weeks. By the time they get to that 3 weeks, the money you're expecting to come in for you to buy the remaining
Probably
feed
wouldn't come.
and it's going to affect the birds.
Plus, you know that
You
the
will
cost of feed keeps fluctuating. That
Yeah.
is one thing I have noticed. It's consistent. It's been consistent through the years. It goes up, it comes down. You can't really. So just keep your feet down.
Some of the biggest constituents that form feed: maize, soybeans. The prices keep fluctuating, and we'll also at some point talk about maize as well, because it's one aspect that you have a lot of market for it, huge market for it in
Absolutely.
farming. We'll talk about
We
that.
will get there. Now, although let's talk about marketing and selling the birds and their products. Poultry farming in Nigeria is known to be very profitable. We've said that. Thus, many go into poultry farming with the sole aim of making money or profits. The cost of running a poultry farm in Nigeria can be very high. Therefore, if marketing is not done properly, the farmer may incur enormous losses that will cause the business to crumble. Don't be caught up in the operational aspect of your business so much that you ignore the sales aspect, especially when you're just coming into the market. You can advertise your business online through your social media accounts, WhatsApp status, and groups. Employ marketers, sell to hotels, restaurants, and event caterers. If you run a small-scale poultry farm, inform friends, relatives, and neighbors that you sell poultry meat and eggs. Also, try to boost your sales during festive seasons by giving discounts, encouraging referrals, offering home delivery, and so on. Although the demand for poultry is high in Nigeria, not every poultry farmer will find success. Running a successful farm can be very challenging. It requires adequate knowledge, finance, patience, attentiveness, and good marketing skills. So before venturing into poultry farming in Nigeria, consider the cost involved, acquire extensive knowledge about the business, and plan well. Now let's talk about this. You have to have your market on ground.
Yeah.
There are people that buy eggs to sell. So you can approach those people and say, oh, I have eggs. Every week I can give you so number of crates of eggs. So you already have them down, coming to pick it. You can also meet, these people that sell, what do they call them? Mishai.
Yeah.
That's one market. Our farm at home, I know that there are like 3 different spots that sell noodles and all of those things by the road, and they buy on a weekly. So you don't have to keep down, it down or anything like that. So that is also something that I know that you could definitely do. You can find family and friends.
I think we need to take a breather. When we come back, we'll give some scintillating facts about poultry farming
Okay,
before we
great.
wrap up on today's show.
Great. Stay with us.